Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another oh, no, I did a thing. I'm going to turn it off. There it is. Hey, everybody. Don't you love a little... would it be a start? Would it be a start of a Kobold Chats if there wasn't, just a tiny little tech issue? A tiny little slip of a finger where I press a button I didn't mean to press. Or I did, but a little too late. Regardless... Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kobold Chats. My name is Kendrick or Kendo, whichever you prefer, and it's the end of our week, somewhere in the middle of our day. Maybe you're at home after work, you're just hanging out, maybe you're at lunch, or you are currently at work and you just have this on the side. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not your boss or your parent, but I do want to thank you so much for being here to do one of my favorite things, talk about TTRPGs and Kobold Press and all the good stuff we've got coming for you. And I won't tell on you, Kim, don't worry. I don't think Wolfgang watches Kobold Chats every week, and so I think this week you might be safe, but who knows, maybe not next week. Hey, everybody. Gosh, we are in the final days of I think we've got hold on, I'm gonna go check. I'm checking right now. We have exactly a week. We have exactly 7 days until the end of the Night Hunters Kickstarter. What's the Night Hunters Kickstarter? What have you been doing? Living underneath a rock? Well, it's our gothic horror supplement for Tales of the Valiant and 5th edition, bringing you everything you need to run a horror game inside of your game. It's got new mechanics that help you engage with horror, like shadow tokens, the Shadow Oracle deck, and the Shadow Board. It's got new character options, new lineages, subclasses, background. It's got everything. It's got everything, but it especially has villains, dread villains to be specific, some creatures and people that bring horror in kind of long form ways, the kind of characters that you build campaigns around, or at least story arcs around, that help your game embrace some of the more darker tones and themes, whether that be body horror, kidnappings, the world ending because angels are coming down from the sky and they're like, hey, you all don't need this, or you do need the sun, and that's a problem because we can't guarantee whatever. You know what? We get to talk about this. Because if you didn't watch the scouting party that just came out, you can go check it out later. Don't leave this right now. What are you doing? We're still live. We're doing this right here. Because we're going to be talking about it with our good friend and designer, JB Little. Hey, JB, how's it going?
Hi, it's going well. Hello, everyone. I'm JB, better known as Drop the Die on the internet at large.
Yes.
You might know me from all of the Tales of the Valiant books. Hi.
You have been here and you've been helping guide the path of Tales of the Valiant since its inception, basically.
It is true.
And everybody, this is going to be a Q&A, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask. We will have a point in time where we get there. And in fact, I think in YouTube, I think I can start a Q&A, and I hope that this will save answers in a way that I can easily come back to later. And if it doesn't work like that, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, because
that's a mood.
I'm sorry. I tried my best. I don't know what you want.
Right, we're trying. They change it every week. What are we gonna do?
They add new features, and it's like, oh, cool. I'd love to use this, and then I try to use it, and I'm like, I don't know what this does. But okay, so I've started that. If you have any questions, please use that feature, and if it doesn't work, let me know, and I'll just keep an eye out for your questions. But before we get into those, I have a question for you, JB. This is what, I guess, the 3rd year of Tales of the Valiant. Basically, this, we're going into the 3rd year of Tales of the Valiant, and it has seen a lot of changes, or not necessarily change, it's evolved, right? It hasn't been stagnant. Player's Guide 2 has come out, Monster Vault 2 has come out, both of them bringing vastly new things to Tales of the Valiant as far as its, progression has gone, and now this is the next step in its evolution, but in a very specific genre way. of horror. And I'm interested from you, a person who's worked on Tales of the Valiant and has seen those changes. How do you feel about the step that Night Hunters is taking for Tales of the Valiant? How have you felt about these changes? Have they kind of opened more doors for how you think things could change in the future? Or, how has that been like for you?
The thing that I've liked the most about working on Night Hunters and the way that the project has been done, handled, aimed, developed is that it's very specific.
Mm-hmm.
I love specific projects. The more general something gets, the more kind of toothless I feel that it becomes for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I need a lot of inspiration. We talked about that in our scouting party. I need something to make me go so that I run with it, as a GM specifically. And for Night Hunters, saying we are going to deliver villains that you will use to afflict your campaign world with problems.
Mm-hmm.
That is very specific. It's very specific. It's very well executed in that way. So instead of just giving a long list of like, it's like a sprite, but a plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a plant, but it's also a beast. Like that's like great for populating encounters,
Mm-hmm.
but it might not inspire people the same way that bigger archetypal characters like a Stradman Zarovich or Dracula,
Mm-hmm.
like a Victor Frankenstein might inspire someone in their campaign.
Yeah.
And capturing a little bit of that magic and trying to use all the touchstones that we designers enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to synthesize that down into something that's digestible for people to inspire them to move forward in their games. That's been the fun part for me.
Yeah.
Just doing like a big wide variety of options isn't usually great. Like I made so much stuff for the Player's Handbook 1 that it like bled over into multiple different books.
Yeah.
But for this one, it was very specific from the start. All of us have like a love of horror, and we engage with a lot of horror literature and movies, horror stories, horror mythology and mythos.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to use all those and synthesize them down has been the fun part.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. Especially, yeah, there is something about the specificity of a villain, right? This is a person with a history, with goals and specific things that they can do. And sometimes I think, especially as a game master, that specificity, even if I don't stick with those details, give me a foundation point of like, oh, this is what I'm building off of.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's
my partner, Sage, and I, Sage, who is part of the Venture Maidens podcast, we love to call that texture.
Yeah.
Giving all of these villains texture, something to grip onto with your brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's been very, very good. And everyone that I've read thus far in Night Hunters has had marvelous texture.
Yeah. And it, like, especially in the ways where, and we talked a little bit about this in the scouting party, of there's enough about each of these villains that and especially like because there so many of them are on different tiers of each other, in comparison to each other, that you can weave them into each other and have their various textures, like kind of that friction with each other, where, oh right, Abelia is happening in the background, the world is ending because this angel is coming to destroy the sun, but in the meantime, you've got to deal with this cult that maybe summoned her or like maybe did something, and also you're living in this town where the like leader of it is a werewolf who's sacrificing people because he thinks that's how he has to deal with this cult that's trying to kidnap. And it's like all of the different ways that the villains in and of themselves can come into conflict with each other, that then just like emphasizes more of the horror that they individually bring, I think is such a really, I think it's a great framework for helping game masters plot out, like, okay, I want to do this game with like all of these themes and with all of these, stuff. How do I set that up? the dread villains are like, I think, just a fantastic tool in that belt.
I really enjoy how you phrased it as friction,
Mm-hmm.
because it is true. It works a lot like spice in a recipe. You add a little bit of one and a little bit of the other. It kind of changes both.
Yeah.
They're not independent of one another.
Yeah.
So yeah, the idea that you can use 2, 3, 5, see how it kind of goes along. Maybe you run the same villain for multiple different tables, but you add other secondary villains and see how things shake out. Trying to keep people from thinking they have to sit down and plot out every scene like it's a novel is a Herculean Sisyphean task. Be like, please, you're playing to see kind of what happens.
Yes.
And these villains, they have a goal and an ambition, but they don't have a plan necessarily. They just have an outcome they want to see happen. And when two of their outcomes overlap across each other, that friction is where your story is. That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah. And it's like, I think there is also the benefit of, especially in Night Hunters, where the kind of genre of horror is really like, there's a huge diversity of it within the dread villains, right? You've got possessed haunted mansions, you've got fallen angels, you've got your classic gothic like vampires and like mad scientists, but you also have like your cosmic horror cults, right? And just the way that I think tone and genre meld when you start putting some of those things together, and just kind of like how unique your game kind of ends up when you do have all of these conflicting is like one way to put it, because their goals aren't necessarily aligned, but sometimes they will be heading in the same direction but divergent in some way. Competing. Yes. Yeah, that might be better, right? There is so much that can, like, you're going to end up telling stories that only your table could have told. And I think that's true of most games, but especially when you start messing with genre in that way, when you have gothic horror alongside cosmic horror, alongside, religious horror, like all of that ends up in really fun places, I think.
1,000 years ago, when we were just working together on a random Tuesday, Celeste and I were talking about how you should try and give players tools and not blueprints a lot of the times. But GMs are usually given only the instructions and very few tools to manipulate things with. So kind of what you said just then stands out to me, in that other publishers have released adventures that have been popular that are, to quote my friend Esper, Rise of the Vampire. And then the next one is Rise of the Werewolves. And they're almost the same, except the monster's different. And it's nothing but zombies. You're like, okay, I get it, Can we, now it's elemental chaos. Okay, yeah, this is cool. Cool. But having a toolbox that we hand to people, players and GMs, that say you can manipulate your game using a villain or dread dice or tokens. These diseases can be a big problem or a little problem. Having a wide variety of those tools, it makes people want to fiddle with their game.
Yeah.
Whenever a person gets new tools, they kind of look around, what can I cut with this? No, like they gotta find something. And the same thing is true in the book. So giving people these villains, that's like such a good way to kind of frame your brain around it.
Yeah.
I am not trying to tell you It's the rise of the cosmic cult. I'm trying to say, what if these dudes existed? Isn't that weird?
Yes, that is.
Dude, what happens to your story about finding the lost goblin if there's also this weird cosmic cult? Isn't that fun?
That, I think that's a really good way to like put it, because it is very much, if you're a game master and you're going through this book and you see a villain that you're like, ooh, this inspires me, I want to put this into this game, you are probably more pulled by the idea of this thing existing in your world than any specific plot line that might come to fruition because of that existence. And like I mean, I think people who've been watching Scouting Party, and even you, have witnessed firsthand as someone has told me a thing and then my brain just starts going, oh, how would I use that? Oh man, what's the most messed up thing I could do with this thing? And it's like there's I think as a game master there is that, that desire, that draw for trying to find inspiration in anywhere, in anything, and sometimes just the idea of something existing is enough to be like, ooh, this.
And we totally touched on that in another Scouting Party that you should check out, dear watcher. The idea of the hangman's tree. It doesn't have to do anything. It just has to exist, and you're done. You did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I know that a lot of agendas and schemes that we developed for some of these dread villains, they kind of operate in, here's what happens if you don't engage with this thing at all. Mm-hmm. Perhaps you come across the Ghoul Emperor's realm and you learn that it exists, and you don't go down there. You don't talk to any ghouls. You look right when you should look left, and you don't come back. You never look at it again. Mm-hmm. What happens if the players have no interaction at all? And that was so fun for me to think about, because it's, okay, here's what they want, and here's how they'll get it, and here's how the players might learn that not being involved changed the world around them.
Yeah.
And they're not all necessarily big. Anyone that knows me as a designer knows I hate when it's, if you don't go 3 miles west, the world will end. Because then all your players do is like, I don't want to use any of the other stuff. I want to go 3 miles west or the world's going to end. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, but the downtime rule. And it just doesn't work.
I made them all really sad so you can see the effect of the world.
Yes, exactly. Instead, the schemes and agendas were like, maybe one day the sun goes out and you don't know why. And then it comes back, but that seemed a little strange, maybe.
Weird, right? You remember that 20 minutes the sun just kind of disappeared from the sky and we all lived with that for a while? How did that happen?
Yeah. And then it'll cause them to ask questions, which you kind of want your players to do. Give them methods and means and reasons to ask questions. I just think that all of that tied together really well, and we have side tangent, viewer. It's February in Las Vegas. There are no plants, and the leaf blowers started during our conversation just now. So please give me some grace. I can't
really hear it. I think the sound.
Thank God.
Yeah,
but
no. So you're good. You're good.
We've used the idea of schemes, agendas, stages of developments in the past as kind of freelance designers, myself and Celeste. Very familiar with her career because she's great. I love Celeste. And it's so good to see those come into fruition in such a serious way in the backbone of a book for a change, instead of just something that you kind of forget about, or maybe you can add an agenda if you would like. Having it be the central pillar that supports the entire book showcases that we really do know how to poke players into asking questions, being involved in this world, and thinking, what happens if I don't act and no one else does either? That's like a really good central part of horror. What if I don't do something and no one else does either? Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. We've got some questions from the chat, which I will try to fit into our convo here. With that in mind, what you were just saying in mind, where it's like conceptualizing, like, okay, right? Um, this thing is bad. Terrible things are happening, but I don't necessarily want to get my hands dirty.
I'm level 2, and I don't
I'm
think I'm
level-
equipped for this yet. Yeah.
right? Um, uh, there's a question here about how you would use these dread villains, and specifically, half thought as which dread villain do you think that you would use in your current campaign that you as a GM, sorry, backing up. Which dread villain would you use in your current game or a game that you would run, and how would you use it? And we can specifically be with the ones that I know that you made, because I know the degree to which you know everybody's and all the other ones.
I do not have the finalized copy of Night Hunters. So
It's still
this is
being
all coming
edited.
from a speculative place.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, really like what they let me do with the Ghoul Emperor. I did not think they would let me go so far.
Mm-hmm.
But the changes that I made to the Ghoul Emperor, as seen in the, I believe, Tome of Beasts 1 and in Empire of Ghouls,
Yeah.
they told me, reimagine it. And that was kind of it. That, I was like, okay, I'll do my thing. So we're going to get in the nerd corner for a minute here. I read about the foundational elements of human empire development in our history, like ancient Arcadia, and looking at how these kind of things evolved, how these people positioned themselves, where they hated outside interaction, but when it came to the development of their empires, they were practically obsessed, including. So Nicophorus was the original Ghoul Emperor. I'm sharing this with you literary nerds out there, and you people that love languages. That was based off of a Byzantine empire from ancient history, and I actually leaned into Sumerian and Akkadian. So Sargon of Akkadia and Gueda of Sumeria. And I put them together, and I tried to take every piece of writing I could find about those two emperors and just push them together, and then sit back and say, now what if they were dead?
No.
How does that change if they were dead? And I went to some really weird places, thinking conceptually about what an emperor who does not care about their safety. They don't care about like health and prosperity for themselves or their people because they don't need to. When we made the ghoul in the original Monster Vault, we made them really scary. If no one's run into it in our personal campaign, we had like a handful of ghouls attack a bunch of NPCs who were trying to stop us from leaving a cave. And my partner let me role play and play all of the ghouls in that conflict.
Uh-huh.
And having them spread this ghoul hunger disease and watching these recently killed soldiers twitch and stand up, their teeth falling out as they scream, hungry now for blood and meat. And some of our other players were like, they get up with all their hit points? And I'm like, they're dead. What do they care? Like, why do they need their hit points?
Exactly.
It's just so good seeing that realization happen with people. They don't have to just be people, but dead.
Mm-hmm.
They might have completely different things that they think about.
Yeah.
And in the version they let me submit for Sardea the Vile, the new Ghoul Emperor, he is this putrid, sore-covered, mangled-looking ghoul who just happens to be the most powerful. There's nothing regal about him.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even like wear armor or clothes because why would they?
They don't need
Why would they waste their time? All they want is to safeguard the empire as it exists and meat. Everything else is tertiary. Nothing else really matters. And having him be clever, having them be smart and interested in prolonging this empire as far as possible, and having an emperor who, like the Sargon of Arcadia, was famous. He said that he knew the empire would crumble, but his job was not to keep it forever, but to safeguard it as long as he lived. And I was trying to really push into that idea of he knows everything ends, everything dies at the end. But how long can the empire stay? And even when the empire collapses, the memory that it existed will remain.
Yeah.
And that's enough. And it's just so cool to be like, there's these ghoul agents that I had going around and trying to make vassal states out of places that were maybe forgotten by the ruling council of that region.
Mm-hmm.
There are worlds attached to the labyrinth that I thought, well, no one's coming to help these people. So what if this ghoul says he'll help, and all they need to do is supply meat? Doesn't even need to be human meat, just meat, right?
Yeah.
And over time, work in that dependency, work in that need to facilitate the industry of undeath. And all that kind of stuff was very interesting for me to wrap my head around. And I promise it did not take me to a dark place. We talked about in a scouting party. I'm already there. I have nightmares all the time. So I'm perfectly fine. But it's a great way to make people think differently about undead and undeath. So that would be the one that I would love to use, because any other dread villain slots right in. Mm-hmm. They fit perfectly. This subterranean empire of undead kind of teeming under the surface of whatever other problem you're dealing with. Fantastic stuff.
That's really good. And I'm especially like, there is immediately my brain goes to how that like interacts with gosh, wish I remember his name. He's the werewolf who has like this makes me think of how both the vampire and the werewolf, who are like leaders of specific regions and specific towns, how that then interacts with, hey, there's this ghoul emperor who super will let you keep your place, will give you a seat on the council, you know, whatever. Meat? And maybe a couple of bodies every now and then, you know? Like 10% of your dead gets added to, you know, the militias. However you feel about that. Like, and also being like very much like Warrior King. You're gonna kill me? Doubt it. I'll show up to your house and ask for these things. And like, or like the someone who is so powerful that they and in a position where they need not worry about mortality being the thing that stops them, and also knowing that and using that as leverage in like a political nature is fascinating, I think.
When you have an ageless leader who's not, it's really weird, not a tyrant. Yeah. An ageless leader who's just trying to exist and expand little by little with infinite patience. Because what is time? Who cares?
Oh, you disagree?
Infinite patience.
We'll see if your children will.
Yeah. Perhaps in 40 generations, you'll come to your senses. Until then, we'll pluck you off one by one and see if you change your mind. Little things like that are so good to me. Yeah. And them letting me avoid the European pale-skinned, long black hair, well-dressed archetype, letting me avoid that made me so excited to keep working on the Ghoul Emperor, because I just made this hunchback little weirdo with a bone scepter, and they're like, okay, really cool. Oh, I have so many ideas.
That's so good, and I think that that also partially answers one of these other questions. Who Bishop is saying they are a 5e vet, but big fan of the changes that Pathfinder 2e changes. They wonder how Tales of the Valiant stands now with a few years under its belt, but also how does Night Hunters work well with Midgard lore or things like Empire of Ghouls, Blood Kingdoms, things of that nature. Do you feel like there is, gosh, I don't know, space for this specific emperor?
I feel like we kind of struck a little bit of gold with the idea of the labyrinth, right? The labyrinth being a nexus location that connects practically infinite worlds. Now you've seen something similar to this for all you D&D nerds and grognards out there. The dread domains used to function pretty similar, right? There was one big Shadowfell, and within the Shadowfell were practically infinite little domains that individual bad people kind of ruled just through their power of presence, right? We don't have to worry about that quite as much, because the big question that I ran into running 4th edition myself was, why on earth would we ever go there? It's like, well, there's probably not a good reason for you to go to a dread domain, but we'll figure it out, But the labyrinth already works that way. So Midgard is connected to it. Other like steampunk realms and other places. I've written multiple different worlds in the Labyrinth world book connected, like Cold Forge, for instance, which is a planet that is dead. The people that lived there before, the dwellers, a subterranean dwarven empire, were wiped out by undead who now control the world. And those undead are basically holding it as a holding platform and killing people that come in to explore these rich, ancient dwarven ruins to repopulate their armies. And they send them out into the labyrinth to go and bolster other armies, all led by death knights that rule from towers. That is exactly the kind of stuff that they got out of me in the world book, and the reason why they came to me, I think, for Night Hunters. And it's another situation where you can bake these in to a small locale. Obviously, I don't think any of you ever need to populate a whole cosmology. Do like one part of one region and then grow out from there as your game prolongs and expands. So what does it look like if you can only see the little corner of what the Ghoul Emperor's got going on in this subterranean nexus that he's building, right? Yeah. What happens if you move your focus away from it for a while and then come back and it's different? I do think that there's room to use these kinds of things, and we've kept TOV mercifully more general than some of the older KP releases, just because it's really hard. It's a huge cognitive load to have people learn kind of a new system that looks so familiar but is so different, and a world that like has multiple textbooks worth of information about heraldry and time passing. Midgard is this rich, populated world full of all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and it's hard to ask people to juggle all those at the same time. Right. So a lot of the stuff in Night Hunters that I've worked on is actually easy to slot into a 5e game, a TOV game, Midgard game, Ravenloft game. Like, we tried to make it generalized just enough to kind of fit the needs of those tables, but with enough of that texture and inspiration that we talked about, that people will kind of think about, how does this fit into where we are now? What does this look like if I were to put it in Middle Earth? If you wanted to do that as part of your exploration of the labyrinth. Yeah. And I really like how it feels more like a library full of books that you can kind of visit than just one gargantuan Brandon Sanderson monster that you kind of forget the beginning of by the time you get to the end.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question and makes it feel like less like a daunting task to look through these. They really are kind of piecemeal, modular, that you can use as you need to.
Yeah. Especially like
Intentionally, by the
right.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We designed them that way intentionally.
Yeah, like there is a very intentional aspect of knowing, especially how some of them are entwined with like a thing like the labyrinth, right? That each of these are pieces that you can pull from the shelf. You can see parts of it, you can see the whole thing, and you can put them wherever you need to. And so I think it would be fascinating for someone to do like a Midgard campaign where they're doing Empire of the Ghouls, and then like somewhere in the middle of that, you know, part of the labyrinth opens up, and then this other ghoul emperor from a different place shows up.
This is so comical to me because I addressed the vampires on the surface versus the ghouls underground.
Yeah.
In my entry for the Ghoul Emperor, and how to use both Ghoul Emperors if you wanted to, or mix one with the other to kind of build out how you want to run it.
Yeah.
And my partner, Sage, ran Ghoul Emperors on a live stream and has a fond love for it. I obviously didn't want to tear it down and throw it away. So I tried to use as much as I could so that you would see the same kind of lattice work around the outside, but change kind of the fundamental nature of undead so that it would be fresh and new for people that maybe didn't really vibe with how Empires of Ghouls is very European monarchy and inspiration and things like that. This is a little more prehistory, kind of in vibe for me, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I love that. And even like the idea of someone like, let's say, doing a Northlands campaign, and then Ghoul Emperor shows up, and I think even just purely, gosh, seeing different settings and how they view undead, because the reason why Northlands came up to me, because there is a specific kind of undead that exists in that world that I wonder if people in that world would confuse a ghoul for, because there is like an honored undead that comes back because they need to protect a place. And then if Ghoul Emperor shows up and he's like, hey, I'll protect this place, but you need to do XYZ for me, which aligns with how they view a very specific kind of undead, is like, that's a fascinating like takeover and like expansion of that.
I tried to bake in a lot of that kind of philosophy, so I'm really glad you're picking up on it.
Yeah. Undead are 100% my favorite classification of creatures, just because of like the way that starts interacting with how people view dead. How I'm not going to get caught up on this, but
I also swear, everyone watching, I swear they're not redeemable. I did not write them as like redeemable, like outcasts. They're horrifying monsters.
that does go to one of the questions, at least for yours. Do you feel like your villains depict a more black and white, like this guy is bad, this guy is evil, or there is good and there is evil? Or do you feel like there is sometimes a more middle ground, or at the very least that the creature or person themselves view the thing that they're doing as maybe good or right? I know Abelia has like a little bit of that kind of weird moral gray area where she might view the thing she's doing as good.
So one thing that stands out to me, shout out to Professor DeArmas that I had in college when I took Psychology of Evil. Now there is a line in which most people can rationalize what they're doing. The greater good is the most common one, right? These people bad, we good, what we do good, what they do bad, and then no overlap. But for me, I tried to write these villains as ranging on a spectrum from complementary to average, wholesome life, and antithetical to it. Somewhere in between. So the Ghoul Emperor, he might turn a vassal state by having a cadre of murderous ghouls wipe out a band of goblins or orcs before they can pillage a place and then be like, I did this for you, but I can do this to you.
Yeah.
Would you become our vassal, or should we turn a blind eye next time? And that's a very powerful tool, but it's also manipulative.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It keeps people safe, but it's also siding with the enemy of life.
Right.
These things, they're not, it's antithetical to the life these people want to lead, and that's what makes them villains.
Yeah.
Ibelia says, you, a group of adventurers, decided to turn a blind eye to the importance of my God. And now I am an orphan in this infinite reality. And you do not deserve what my God protected you from. So I will show you how wrong you were to do that. And now that's a good lesson to learn when you, right? But it's antithetical to having peach cobbler. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
The cosmic cult is probably the most nefarious of the three that I wrote, in that the cosmic cult is due to like a form of madness and manipulation of someone in a way that they cannot escape. And it's a very touchy, it's a very brittle conversation to have with people. And that we are not talking about a chemical imbalance that someone cannot help, a madness brought on by trauma. Those things, they deserve our sympathy and our support. But this is a madness inflicted onto a person. The madness itself is not what you should hate and rally against. It's the person inflicting it, the creature doing this to people.
Yeah.
And it does it just because of its existence. And completely without care of your wants and desires, just being in the presence of this entity, as I wrote it, fundamentally changes you.
Yeah.
That's the most like nefarious, creepy thing that I tried to do. And all of my One Punch Man fans out there who like season 1 of One Punch Man probably gonna like everything I did with the Cosmic Cult. So I see you out there, and I'm with you.
I really like the way that you kind of describe that, especially when it comes to like cosmic horror, right? There is, and I think we talk about this in Scouting Party as well when I brought up cosmic horror, of the idea that there are things that exist in the world that are so far beyond our comprehension that to even come like a fraction of, or like gaining a fraction of understanding of its existence is enough to drive one mad, because of your inability to express to people who have not had that experience of like the awesomeness and its most like platonic meaning of that experience, and like how that can drive someone to doing things that one would view as morally reprehensible,
Yes.
and terrible.
The perception of something you should not know exists changes how you perceive today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fundamental building block on like Lovecraftian cosmic horror. And I even wrote, I think it's 350 words. I'm obviously not going to read it, but I wrote like a primer and appended it to the front of my submission for the Cosmic Cult of what exactly is cosmic horror, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you summarized it very well there. It's this idea that there are things that make life and reality as we know it pointless. Like we are of so little value as to not merit discussion on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
But this planet and humanity as we know it is also, so far as we can tell, the most important thing that's ever existed in our universe.
Yeah.
Both are true and both are terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I tried to talk about that as part of the cosmic cult and building that. How do you use that in your campaign as a lever to get your players to think about that? What is the labyrinth? What made it? How does it connect things? So just one tiny little fraction of an entity trying to reach into our world, one tiny little fraction broken away from it, is what you deal with in the entirety of my cosmic cult villain arc.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough. You don't want the full thing.
Yeah, that's I really can't wait to get my hands on that, because that's especially bringing that into a space of fantasy, right? Because I think there is I'm interested in how that will engage with the genre of like high fantasy typically, right? In comparison to like seeing it in games or like stories of like Call of Cthulhu, right? These very like gas lamp like 20s through 60s and even modern day, right, cosmic horror, right, where the kind of philosophical conflict between the existence of the unknowable and the eldritch and like more like people, right, is logic, is science dictates XYZ, so this can't be true, and this is how I am, perceiving the world, right? Or like, or it's through God, right? But like shifting that from like, I have cell phones and I can Google the way the world works, to we are now in more generally isolated due to lack of instant communication, right? And like being like, what is it like to be a farmer in the middle of, so someone's duchy somewhere where like you're miles and miles away from like, the local people, and then all of a sudden you see what amounts to like an alien being very briefly like manifesting into the world and then gone. And you just have to like, I guess I have to harvest crops tomorrow, I guess, right?
I saw my own future in the reflection of this thing. I guess I'll go to the market. Like, no. You probably have to struggle with that.
Yeah, it reminds me of when that Amazon flight with Bezos, but when God, what's his name? Actor played Kirk in Star Trek.
William Shatner?
Yes, when William Shatner went into space with Bezos,
yes.
And he comes back down.
A beautiful human moment.
And like he's like, I thought it was going to be like wonderful. I went to space, but there was just a vast empty darkness. And we were so small. And he comes and he's just like truly tripping out about it. But everyone else around him just we're not
they're popping champagne. They're like, yeah, that's great, Will. Here's
come on.
And he's like, no, but really,
you're bumming us all out.
No one's listening.
It's like, yeah, like that's cosmic horror, right? Is
yes,
that?
Yes.
And imagine being that person where you've had this profoundly human experience about finally getting to understand a core part of the reality of the situation, and everyone else around you pretending like it's not that big of a deal, or like just not getting it.
That didn't happen. That's whatever. It's just because you're hungry.
You might start a cult about it. You might.
So there's two quick things. One that stood out to me. I never get to talk about this, so I got to circle back to it.
Yeah.
You're talking about high fantasy and how cosmic realities, cosmic cults, cosmic horror can influence fantasy in a different way than it does like a modern setting, or when we watch when we watch a Lovecraftian style narrative. Yes, H.P. Lovecraft was a gigantic piece of shit. But when we watch those kinds of narratives, we see a person inflicted and changed in a reality that we can understand. In fantasy, we're already in a reality that we struggle to understand. We only see a small part of it. And one of the huge things that stands out to me of people that lambast fantasy all the time is the idea of, well, if you have magic, why are you stuck in medieval times for 100,000 years or whatever nonsense people throw around these days?
Yeah.
I agree. I'm with you. Also, the barrier between a normal person and the inexplainable is far thinner in a fantasy world. You can almost see the other side every time you cast a little spell or something, right?
Ooh.
Doesn't that change your day-to-day life just a little bit if you think about it? If one day you woke up and you could just make fire come out of your fingertips, you'd be like, "What?" And then you'd be scared because you're going to get locked in a lab and study, and then you try to hide it. There's an entire like line of thinking about this called the X-Men. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but yeah, when the thinner that line is between the unknowable and the average, the longer it takes to work through that. We use science to try and explain it.
Yeah.
And when we know I can measure the distance between the Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy, I can measure it, I know. But understanding that it's thousands of times bigger than our own galaxy between us and the next closest thing is freaky, right?
Yeah.
That's like the hard part. And with magic, you might just know it.
Mm-hmm.
You might have seen it. It's like, oh yeah, I talked to God yesterday. You don't think that would pause like our development as a people a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So I'd also tried to go in there, and I did get a question from Michael in the YouTube chat.
I was just about to ask.
Were there any old pulp science fiction or fantasy stories that I used for inspiration? The perception of dying empire worlds vibe. Probably for Sardaea. But I do enjoy a lot of actual history. Mm-hmm. And man, some of the stuff you read, like from the 1100s to the 1400s, you would not even believe it in like a fantasy story. So really reading about like the Byzantine Empire and the Akkadian Empire and all those, it kind of fundamentally changes the way that you perceive that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But in terms of pulp, you're really looking into some of the ways that the world was created in Hellboy, for instance. The relationship with undead, that being undead is like a burden and people kind of hate it and they don't want to be. Yeah. But they're just relegated to like, I have no control over this. Why does that happen? How does their brain change when they die? Mm-hmm. Was the big thing. So all of those kind of pulpy Nosferatu, Dracula, all those kinds of things, and the exploration of more weird pulp stuff like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, my guy, like that. Yeah, I mean, you gotta cut deep every once in a while. But yeah, like point. What does it mean to be undead? These people act so differently. Mm-hmm. That's really what I took a lot of inspiration from. So taking real life empires and how death kind of changes people in pulp fiction and putting them together is kind of what I went for. But that was a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, I think there's I don't know why, but this also, I recently finished a rewatch of Game of Thrones lately. And there's something about the relationship between those who have died and come back but are not considered undead, right? Versus the dead. And I'm interested in, how that would even, this is like a super side tangent, but how that interacts in like this space of like, oh, we're fighting the Ghoul Empire. We don't want a bunch of people to be undead, but we did technically like revive you the other day after that really bad battle and you got stabbed in the heart, right? Like the line between that and like how people view like the returned versus the undead.
You view me as a mockery of life, and yet you mock it yourself.
Right.
I'm there with you.
It's like there's so much fun places to play in that. And especially like not even just with the ghouls, but with like vampires and ghosts and all of these things that are like
how has everyone's perception changed a little bit?
Yeah.
So ghouls are very much I leaned into I actually have the PDFs and stuff, but I don't have them open to get their titles. But I did lean into the Arabic origins of ghoul, which did inspire H.P. Lovecraft. So what's the relationship of these more or less scavengers to other things that might prey on them?
Yeah.
Like they have predators other than living people. They also have to appease the living, but what about aberrations and monstrosities, other things that dwell underground? What about their fellow undead who might think of them as a problem for their machinations of like governmental manipulations and things of
Right.
look, get out of here. It's like, what do you want me to do? I'm gonna drag your castle into our caverns and we're gonna eat you to pieces. Like, is one vampire enough to stop 40,000 ghouls? Probably not.
Probably not.
So that's the interesting part. If there's too many vampires, the world crumbles. Castlevania on Netflix. It's very good.
It's very good.
Like, it is very good. So like too many vampires, the world crumbles, but too many ghouls? Is
World
that
okay?
the same? Is that also true?
World
What
fine.
about ghosts?
Too
Like
many-
you
too many
said,
ghosts.
if there's too many ghosts, I mean, what happens then? How do
skeleton.
all these things interact?
Yeah.
I really like that that's where your head's at, because that's exactly what I wanted from literally every word I wrote.
Well,
all 32,000 words were, I want that reaction.
and I haven't even read them. So you did your job, I think.
Hopefully. Let me know, chat.
Let us
Let me know if it comes through.
Well, we are coming here to the bottom of the hour. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. No one should be afraid of no ghosts. That's what exorcists are for. And the curse breaker. I guess
Ghosts aren't real.
Ghosts aren't real. Thank you so much, JB. This has been a fantastic talk. Thank you for all of the work that you've done for Tales of the Valiant as a whole and for Night Hunters specifically. This has
Everyone thank lead designer Celeste Conowich for dragging me along.
Yes.
Love you, Celeste.
If you haven't already backed Night Hunters, I don't know what you're doing. Come on. The link...
It's going to be a good time. There's a lot of stuff to pull from it, even if you're not a huge horror fan.
Yes.
There's a lot of options that we did do for curses, diseases, hazards, and things that might spark some inspiration for you. And if you're really, really not into it after you see some of the preview documents and all of that, tell us what you do want. Like, at this point, really, just tell me what you want, and I'll see if we can't get it made. Like, for real. I'm not even kidding.
No,
but yes, please go check out Night Hunters. A lot of people poured a lot of really intense thought into it. So hopefully you'll pick up on all those little things we're trying to sprinkle in there.
Heck yeah. The link for the Kickstarter is new diseases. There's new curses, hazards, diseases. JB worked on many of them. I'm sad that we didn't get to it in this particular conversation. But we do talk about it in the first episode of Scouting Party. So you can go check that out, especially because we're about to be done here. We are just under 200,000 USD for the Night Hunters Kickstarter. We're at 270,000 Canadian dollars, and that's thanks to all of you who have helped and those of you looking to help in the future. And we still have one more week until it is done, and that's enough time for us to hit another stretch goal. All right, that $300,000 stretch goal, it's right there. It's right there. We're pretty dang close, and we've got a week to do it. So even if you've already backed, send the link to your friend. Maybe they'll like it. If you're having a hard time convincing them, send them the Scouting Party episode. Send them the Kobolds at the Table episode. They can see Night Hunters in action. We genuinely appreciate all of you all's support. It means the world to us because all we want to do is make cool games for you guys.
And I'm a freelancer. I'm just here because the book rules. You really should check it out. Like, it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. But until I see you next, which will be it'll be next week, same time, same Kobold channel. Don't forget to go out, be bold, be brave, be valiant, and I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.